Welcome back, everybody, to Divulgence. Today I have Monica Perez from The Monica Perez Show. How's it going, Monica? Thanks so much for being here.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm very well. Um, what uh, what have you got going on? I know you're over in LA. You mentioned that you were kind of hit by the fires and whatnot. Can you tell me how things are going with yourself before we
Yeah,
get in?
thank you. Thank you for asking. I live in Altadena, which is there were two big fires in LA on January 8th. Like they were the same day. One was the Pacific Palisades, which is like very fancy and ritual. There were a lot of legacy people there who lost everything and will probably never get it back. But up where I am, it's in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, and it's not a fancy community. A lot of nice houses up in the hills, but not super fancy. But it was almost obliterated. I think I know over 9,000 buildings, mostly almost entirely houses, burned down, and I don't even know how many there were to start out with, but more than half. It looks like to me my neighborhood was totally crushed, but my house survived for a bunch of different reasons, like came together and the house survived, but it did catch on fire in the back, and I just didn't think it was that big a deal. But it burned the fence, it burned the patio. We were already doing some other work on the house because we just bought the house and it's 100 years old, so we were already underway. It's So it's not been a year yet. It's been since January, but there's just like so much dirt and dust and noise and building. And first it was the ash, and then it was the demolition, then it was the excavation, and now they're starting to build again. But one thing they do, my road is kind of a busy road. They have a truck that goes back and forth all day, every day, that sprays water on the dirt, and it's like hot here. So it immediately dries. But first there's dirt, which is annoying. Then there's mud, which gets everywhere. And then 2 seconds later, it's completely dry. I don't understand it. But anyway, so I've been a little bit off my game. I can't seem to get uninterrupted time to like immerse myself in the news. So I just have been catching what I can as far as news. I've still been having interviews with people, which I love. I've been reading books on air because I find it like doing some conversations with just my listeners. We're doing meditations with Marcus Aurelius right now. So great. Well, not with him, by him. He's long dead. But that's been very comforting to me. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, but you know what? I think you know that podcasting and doing this kind of thing, like it's got its it ebbs and flows. Oh, you're muted. You are muted, Jordan.
Sorry.
Thank you, sweetie. No problem.
Again, thank you for your time because, I agree with you. It can be very time consuming and so much, so much stuff going on in the world, in the States. And then, like, when you turn on your um, phones and look on social media and stuff, or you're looking at podcasts and stuff, like alternative media is just formed into this new creature. And
No, it's
you have
so obvious that I don't
so
know if they
much.
hijacked it or if they they just saw podcasting and they're like, well, could be a problem, but it could be an opportunity, and
We'll have
then
to
just
grab it. Yeah.
hijack the crap. I mean, when you have Tucker Carlson like moving from Fox to Pi, you're like, oh, I guess. I mean, I just think it's generational. Like my mom watched Fox. My exact generation saw all the truth on the internet, and because of that, we gave it a lot of credibility. And then, like for my kids, they've never seen any truth on the internet. Totally shut down, in my opinion. But like, I guess my generation is like the transitional generation. So maybe people my age, I think they probably do think Tucker's real because he transitioned from mainstream. Like I think Glenn Beck did that first.
Yeah, there's a big handful of these people that are doing that either by choice or they're getting kind of canned or whatever. I mean, there's you got Candace, you got Piers Morgan, um, I think Cuomo. He podcasts now, and
But they make money, and so like they're supported. Like
right,
you
right,
you can get suppressed or you can get promoted. There's
yeah,
probably nothing in between, and anybody who comes out of nowhere also and just all of a sudden has like 10,000 followers. I'm like, dude, you're definitely not being suppressed in any case. And
yeah.
mostly I think that you can tell they just have a
Like
huge
that's what I
platform
think
all of a sudden.
about. Like Nick Fuentes. Like maybe I just don't know his background as much
I'm
as
sure
I
he's a
should,
complete fed, obviously.
but I mean,
I mean, but
it's
I
just
don't pay
weird.
attention to it because
Yeah,
I think a lot of the function of that stuff is to waste your time. So it's just to get you to so there are all these stories in the news all the time. And if you were to really pay attention to it, it's a 24/7 news cycle. Like if
it's
you
not
were really
possible
keeping
anymore.
up on the news, yeah, it would absorb all of your time and it's not useful. It is useful, I think, to understand what things are happening that will are setting a precedent that negates important parts of the Constitution. I mean, that's about as far as I'll go with like, this is important. It's not important for the reasons that you're saying it's important, but it's important.
Right. Yeah. It's the reasons that kind of get put out why I started you with something is important. Just like why are we talking about how it's just unbelievable. Um, Even with so much going on at once. So I guess we'll just start talking about some of the stuff going on related to the states and with Donald Trump. I guess we can start with the No Kings term, protests, all that. I mean, you're seeing him with a crown all over the place. I'll pull up here. South Korea just gifted him a replica crown. He's hinting at not leaving the White House. Some people say that um, him him breaking down the East Wing and putting a ballroom in it is signs that he's going to stay. Which I mean, I feel like every president pretty much has done something to the White House, so I might not put too much thought into that. But I mean, like there is some cause for concern that maybe if he or not if when his time is come, there might not be a peaceful or proper transition of power. There's people talking about he'll run JD Vance and play in the background. There's all sorts of these different theories. But yeah, what are your thoughts on what's going on with Trump the No Kings protesting? Um, and do you know? I guess first of all, do you know where the term No Kings originally comes from?
I didn't know. I looked up who was supporting it, and it was like an amazing array of far left organizations, but very, sanitized. So I figure it's like the 40 Faces of the Soros Foundation and a lot of unions, which really is a head scratcher because the people who pay union dues are people who historically and as a fiduciary duty to them, you do not want illegal below minimum wage immigration. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what the people who are paying for the unions should want. But I don't know are you going to tell me where the expression came from? Who coined it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I heard
Yeah, I
I
don't
heard
know.
it. I heard it somewhere. I'll have to look it up and find it while we're talking, though.
Well, for me, it is kind of a weird, tortured expression. I don't really get it. Of course, it plays right into his hands. I'm from New York. So originally, I was totally aware of Donald Trump. And we were all kind of shocked and horrified at how everything that he had down there was like basically dipped in gold, which we attributed to his wife, Ivana. And uh, so So now that you pointed out that he got this crown from South Korea, it's exactly what he would want. Like, he wants to be portrayed that way as far as, like, his taste goes, but to me, it's all a psyop. It's obviously dialectical. It's like owning the word queer, like, you how do you beat it? You own it. So he's doing that, but you have to set it up so that he can own it. And the thing about the No Kings protest that I find extremely annoying is they basically have two expressions, like protect our democracy and restore the Constitution. I mean, I say restore the Constitution, but they're like, I want to defend constitutional rights and protect our democracy. I'm like, well, the Constitution and democracy are at odds, especially in the hands of the people who are promoting these No Kings protests, in that one of the problems with immigration that I see, I'm a libertarian, so I defend the right to work and travel under circumstances of liberty. There, you wouldn't have immigration issues. My grandparents came in without any immigration restrictions, except for you couldn't be actively ill. But one of the problems with a massive immigration is you have people coming in from other countries who get the right to vote pretty quickly. They have no grounding in the reasons that this country is so, there's plenty of reasons this country is better than other countries that are not due to sound ideology. But the Constitution, to me, I mean, I prefer the Articles of Confederation, basically an anarcho-capitalist, but the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are totally manageable. They're workable. They're good. If we maintained the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, democracy would have very little impact on us. The federal government would be extremely small. It wouldn't matter. But you have illegal immigrants coming in, voting or becoming legal, whatever, voting, illegal or legal, in a way that does not reflect a real understanding of how it works. And then you have what has happened here is we violate the Constitution using the tool of democracy. So if you really were to stick to the 18 mandated powers in the Constitution and really defended the Bill of Rights, there would be very little impact of democracy and it wouldn't matter at all. So when they're talking about democracy and the Constitution in the same breath, in this case, they're absolutely at odds. And the other thing I can't stand is that No Kings in itself is telling you that Donald Trump is the problem. Donald Trump is an actor. He's an actor. He's playing a role. He may believe his own bullshit at this point. I don't know. But he took on a role that he performs at the behest and direction of someone else. Zucker put him in place, the head of CNN. He was a WWF or WWE wrestling star. He was on The Apprentice. He's an actor. So calling it No Kings, I would, if you had to say something, I would say no fascism, because there is actually fascist tendencies that are happening by telling companies what CEOs to have, wheeling and dealing using trade to tell other countries to invest in U.S. companies. I mean, that's fascism. But it's not because of him. It's because of the people who put him in place and continue to control him.
Right. Right. Yeah. What are your thoughts on him not leaving the White House? I mean, do you think he's just trolling, so to speak? Like, I mean,
they said the same thing with Obama.
Oh, okay.
They said the exact same thing with Obama. I remember Roseanne Barr said a year ago there would be no election, or how long has it been now? Yeah, it's been a year since the election, right? So she said in 2024 there would be no election. Don't worry, like something big's going to happen. People have been saying that. It's just like the illegitimacy of the elections themselves. There's always a legitimacy factor ever since the hanging Chad, which I think really sounds like a porn star, but the hanging Chad.
I love it.
In
Chad, yeah.
Yeah, in 2001, I think the powers that be realized. So prior to that, they wanted us all to kind of be in the middle and not be much of a difference between the two people. And now the Democrat and the Republican, now they still have that. It's the liberal fascist center, the warfare, welfare, superstate, whatever. But they like the conflict that comes up when we don't own the president, not my president. That's really powerful because it really keeps us fighting against each other, keeps us distracted. keeps the two-party thing alive. So you've had a legitimacy issue every single time since then, including like my best one is my most telling one was when Hillary, Cruz, and Trump were all running, and they all had massive legitimacy issues. And I just felt like, oh, they're just setting it up. They don't even, at this point, they don't care which of those people win, and they're gonna set it up for conflict. So I feel like that's maybe our quote democracy is on the rocks. Maybe that stuff's not really going to happen. There may be a time when it does collapse, but I don't think it's outlived its usefulness yet.
I did a little looking, and it appears that the "no kings" phrase came from 1776 writings from Thomas Paine.
Interesting. Common
Yeah.
Sense, I think, was his little famous pamphlet.
That's it. That's common sense. In America, the law is king. No king, no tyranny. Monarchy hath poisoned the republic. So yeah, there we go.
Well, and what the other thing that does is it makes it, again, by focusing on him, they are not focusing on the very egregious violation of posse comitatus, which is a terrible, terrible precedent to set. And it's
What is
something that, so posse comitatus is an act. It's been law here for basically since the beginning, where the federal troops, military, cannot be used to enforce domestic law. And there are few exceptions. I think it was like kind of a post-revolutionary thing rather than even a Civil War thing, but it might have been. I had the facts and figures on my head. But I forget that one. But there's a couple of limited exceptions if the governor cannot enforce actual constitutional rights and asks the feds for help. If the president then demands that the violating parties disperse before he sends somebody in there, you're just not allowed to do it. So the way they're doing it is they're taking. So he's using situation. It's kind of like the rape and incest exceptions for abortion. He's saying, well,
Okay.
I did it in DC because that's federal property, or like a non-state thing. I did it in LA because it was on federal property. I did it in Memphis because I don't even know if he actually went in there, but they asked me to. I did it in Portland because they threw rocks at federal agents. So it's all these different examples that they're trying to expand the exceptions to posse comitatus and ultimately just negate it. So instead of everything, all the signs saying restore posse comitatus, in which case you would have known what the real issue was, it doesn't say that. It blurs the issue and focuses on Trump, which is not it's not helpful, because then you're going to get King Newsom. And King Newsom is going to violate posse comitatus, and nobody's going to say anything because they've already co-opted the right into defending all this crap.
So what are your thoughts on whoever, I mean, you kind of answered it a little bit there. Like, what are your thoughts on whoever does come in with these precedents that Donald Trump is setting in so many different ways, just how he talks, how he acts, how he, behaves as the president, how he speaks as the president, and how he uses his power. Obviously, do you think that someone like Newsom or whoever are just going to, and especially after bashing him so long, pick up the pieces where Trump left off and just?
I think that's a great question in that this. So I think how they're going to do it, and this is how they always do it. There's very little difference in what these guys want to achieve. Mostly, I would say, a tyrannical, totalitarian global government. And what are the pieces that have to get in place before that happens? There has to be regionalization. There has to be surveillance. There has to be censorship. We're talking, digital ID, facial recognition, all of the pieces have to be put together. First, they start with regional hegemony so that you control like something geographically close to you. Then you cooperate across those regional columns, and then you kind of adopt the same laws like COVID. And then eventually you can just zip it up. You don't even have to tell people it's zipped up. Everybody just does the same thing. Again, COVID is a great example of that. So, so Biden and Kamala Harris were definitely trying to coordinate the Americas. I believe Biden was responsible for the assassination of Moise in Haiti, basically a week after he got into office, after his inauguration. And I remember her going down there, we've got to bank the poor or whatever. Now Trump, I think he might invade Venezuela. And then like the surveillance things, the right was completely against that kind of federal surveillance. And it took Trump to say, oh, immigration, let's make sure, like you were saying something about having facial recognition or something like that. I want to talk about that a little bit. But all these pieces of the puzzle, both sides of the aisle have, want, and they want the power that comes with it. At what point at the highest levels are these guys actually coordinating? Well, we could see with COVID that they were actually coordinating. Do they like each other? Are they still vying for individual power? I don't know. But the way they actually distinguish themselves in the eyes of their constituents and the way their constituents are trained to respond. So the right was pissed about the Republicans, and they got Ron Paul, and he was so smart and quoted the Constitution, and it was just fantastic. That doesn't do. They do not want you being smart and thinking. They want you they finally, with Trump, brought identity politics to the right, being irrational and emotional, but it's a different kind of, a different style. Where on the left, they have, so it's tough guy warfare stuff, right? So I always think the right is the warfare, the left is the welfare. The tough guy warfare stuff, that's the bluster that you get from there. On the left, it's compassion, it's rationality, it's common sense, it's intellectualism, it's diversity. So if you have a Newsom AOC ticket, they'll be, calm and pay a lot of lip service to process. Like I just was listening to, I was on the phone with New York Times. I wanted a back issue of their print paper from the fire. And while I was waiting, they said this call will be monitored for quality assurance and to train AI. It's like, oh, that's like a left nod to this is the process. We have to tell you how it's working. We're not doing anything behind the scenes, but they're still training AI. I'm not hanging up the phone. So I feel like it's all superficial, and that is actually the essence of it.
Yeah. So getting back to scanning people's faces, we were talking about off air. So ICE agents and CPP agents are now scanning people's faces on the street to verify citizenship, which is just wild when you think about it. It just makes me think of like going to a scary country where if you kind of shit your pants on the sight of law enforcement, right? Kind of like a Nazi movie or something. Not to go to the easy, the low hanging fruit there, but that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah, like that's so extra invasive too.
It seems to me. Oh, and look, and they don't show their faces. See, that's the kind of thing that's absolutely outrageous. So there might even be laws where there were before COVID in some places where you couldn't wear like a veil or whatever, like a Muslim type thing. And for me, you need to have, at least with the Nazis, they asked you, they said like, let me see your papers. You actually knew what was happening. In this case, there's no, unless there's probable cause of a crime, it's not okay to do that. I long cautioned against using cop body cams, because I did say they will be scanning people at protests to see which side you're on or whatever. I said that. I probably said that when they first came, probably 10 years ago, when the body cam thing was a way to protect civil liberties. Like, that's fine, but make sure that every single camera is attached to a live streaming URL. So every single camera should have its own place on the web that you can watch it in real time. So they can't alter it. They can't turn it off. If it's turned off, that cop can't make any arrests, cannot be, active at all. If you're going to do it, it has to be something that everyone has access to, because they're ours. Those are our body cams. We paid for them. They are used in our name. They have absolutely no rights that we have not given to them. And they should not be able to do anything that a citizen, regular person, is not allowed to do. So I imagine I am permitted to go around with an iPhone and scan everybody's faces. I assume that's true. If that's not true, then this should definitely not be true. But they have no right to. I mean, I would say that read the Constitution. There are hardly any crimes. I'm not even sure immigration is a federal thing. I'm not convinced that immigration is a federal responsibility.
In what regard? So, and whose responsibility would it be? The states? Oh, sorry, Monica, you are frozen. Oh no. Looks like she's having some issues, guys. Let's just give her a second here. Just as it's getting nice and just as we're cooking. Just as things were cooking. What happened? Did your laptop die or something?
No, my house went completely dark. So I think it's the work they're doing outside. But I think we can still go on, can we not?
As long as you're okay with that.
Yeah, totally fine with me.
Okay, cool. So, basically what I was asking was, we were talking about immigration not being a federal responsibility, and I just asked, in what regards do you mean that, and whose responsibility would it be? The states or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do my homework on that, but
Sure.
I seem to recall reading stuff in maybe the Federalist Papers or the Anti-Federalist Papers or the Constitution itself of like citizens of one state should have, egress and ingress into the other states. And my inference on that, that's Charlton Heston. Sorry. My inference there is that that it's the states that determine citizenship. And because of that, I'm thinking that's they're the ones who have that power. The only thing I would say against that is, or in support of that, is that if we have welfare and other federal laws that are totally unconstitutional, it can't have been a consideration when they did the Constitution. It's like federal taxes. I always say, well, too bad the founders didn't think to make sure that taxes could never be on income. Well, they really didn't think that hard about federal taxes because the feds didn't have that much responsibility. They didn't need much money. They didn't anticipate the possibility that they would take 40% of all of our earnings.
Interesting. Yeah, that seems to be a common thought, that why didn't they say this in the Constitution or and it's like, well, it was a very different time. What are your thoughts on that, just quickly, like that? should documents like that were created so long in the past from such a different time, should they be open to amendments and scrutiny?
I think that the amendment system is pretty good. I think it works pretty well. I think I don't believe that. So yes, I think that they thought of almost everything. They thought of they act like they did not think of terrorists and stuff. They absolutely did. They had pirates. They have letters of marque and reprisal. They have ways of making changes, and I agree with those. I think I liked the idea that I think Jefferson had an idea that all laws should have to be set untouched for 1 year before they're voted upon. And any changes would prompt another year of waiting, because that would show that they're timeless. And uh,
Hmm.
they are, like, that was the point of it. It's very sound. I feel like, as much as, like, I agree with Lysander Spooner, who says, maybe this was a setup for big federal government. And I think it was. That's why it replaced the Articles of Confederation totally illegally. But it's still the best. I would have to say it's probably the best the world has ever had or ever will have. So when people talk about a constitutional convention, I'm like, don't even think about it. You'll never get it as good. You'll never get it as good. And I do not think that the Supreme Court, and I differ with Thomas Jefferson on this, I do not believe that the Supreme Court is empowered to judge whether Congress makes constitutional laws or not. That is absolutely not the separation of powers that we have. The answer to unconstitutional congressional law is state nullification. The Constitution does not give Congress the power of enforcement. The Department of Justice, the FBI, those were post-Civil War accommodations to try to cram down federal law on the South that still resisted enforcing laws they didn't agree with.
So we have comment from the audience here talking about the discovery doctrine. So I looked it up. Wikipedia says the discovery doctrine, or doctrine of discovery, is a disputed interpretation of international law during the Age of Discovery, introduced into the United States municipal law by the U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Marshall in 1823. So discovery in international law, the means by which a state can acquire territory in international law, are conquest, cessation by agreement, occupation of land which belongs to no state, and prescription through the continuous exercise of sovereignty. Yeah, I'm not sure what part they want me to read out, but
maybe they can cut and paste.
Are you familiar with the discovery doctrine? Never heard of that, actually.
I don't. What they're getting at, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, fakes from the reels. if you want to add a bit more, we can get back into that. Going back to ICE and whatnot. So what about the thought you're talking about their face coverings? You don't seem to like that. What are your thoughts on them being doxxed and threatened and stuff like that?
I mean, the thing was very, from the beginning, very like made for TV, in that those original ICE protests, and then the military, the US, whatever, the National Guard coming in downtown. A friend of mine works down there and said there was just like 100 reporters on one side of the street and like a couple of feds smoking cigarettes sitting on their, I think he said they were smoking cigarettes, sitting on the stairs of the federal building, that there were just so many more reporters than there were protesters or military guys. So when it comes to stuff like that, I try, and like the thing of, who shot Charlie Kirk? Like, I don't look at the nuances, like the little drill down into the details of the stories they give us, because I think that's their way of keeping us busy with details that you're not really going to be able to. I mean, if you want, if I do, I think that agents of the state or the feds should have privacy and secrecy. I don't see why they would. I mean, they're supposed to be our agents. They should. I mean, it should all be above board. I want those body cams streamed live constantly. I want everything. I want, I would like the absolute maximum amount of transparency possible.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What's it like where you are? Are you seeing ICE kicking
No,
down
the
doors?
only thing they did up here, it was so annoying. There's no ICE activity up here. Altadena is right outside Pasadena. It's a very, I would say probably Pasadena. Altadena is like the middle class one, but Pasadena is rather upper middle class. So right after those ICE things, they brought the protests here. And from like the reports I've read, the people I've seen, people have told me have gone down there. I didn't go down there. They're like 40-something-year-old soccer moms and stuff. I mean, they're enjoying themselves. They're there to feel like they're part of the political process. They're really removed from the situation. The closest they've come to illegal immigrants is definitely the people who are doing their lawns. And why would you want to bust those people? Like, we were sold this stuff about immigration and ICE and all of that based on the like gangs and murders and stuff. And that's just not what they're addressing at all. And the people who are you're defending the right of some company to hire below, minimum wage labor. Like, is that really the hill you're going to die on? I defend the right to work and travel. I will die on that hill. But I mean, first we would have to restore the Constitution and give us back the right to work. But, the union's inclusion with government, these things, we don't have to start with a disruptive accommodation to an overly manipulated labor market.
Gotcha. So you don't feel that ICE is really cracking down on the stuff they should be cracking down on? Like agent gangs and stuff.
I think there's a very orderly process for fighting crime. I think most crimes, I mean, there's only 2 crimes in the Constitution, federal crimes, treason and counterfeiting. So the federal government needs very little to do with that. The first thing I would do is eliminate all crimes that are not inherently bad. There's 2 kinds of crimes, mala prohibita and mala in se. So anything that's mala prohibita, prostitution, drugs, whatever, they're not crimes in my opinion. Crimes against person and property, yes, those are crimes. But if you drill down to that, you have tons of capacity to fight crime. You could probably hunt down every single solitary worker and criminal. And if you are, if somebody is caught who is foreign here illegally, I think a totally reasonable punishment would be to deport them and keep them from entering again if their country agreed to it. Otherwise, you could just prosecute them. I mean, maybe it's a form of exile. I have to. Okay. Can you hear that dog?
Yeah.
Can you hear my dog? Crazy. Yeah. Yes. Let me get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it.
Sorry.
All good.
I hope that helps. This has been such an insane experience in that. I mean, I haven't had a day this bad for a while. It's the just all the workers and the trucks and everything um from the reconstruction over here, and we had just adopted this insane dog who had been on death row. We
Oh,
adopted him like 1 month before the fire, and holy cow! I'm looking to see if I have headphones that'll work here. He's just a nightmare. I mean, I love him to death, and I can understand why he was on death row.
oh, jeez.
Anyway, but it's okay. But he was fine before. There were people here constantly, but now there's constantly somebody here at scaring him. He's really nuts, like he's missing his teeth and everything.
Oh
But
my
anyway,
God.
we thought we were doing a good deed.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, so we were also going to talk about phone crackdown. Oh, you're gone there. Looks like she's having problems again. Maybe we can get her back. Sorry for this, everybody. This is it's no fault of hers, but here we go.
Let's try again.
There you are.
Let's
Are you
see.
back on the computer?
Oh my goodness. No, I just use the hotspot with my laptop for as long as that'll last. That way I can plug my headphones.
Oh, nice. Cool.
All right, let's try that. That should be better. Is that way better or not?
Yeah, I think so.
If you can hear the dog, let me know.
Okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. So, yeah, we were going to talk about phone crackdowns, particularly at the airports. So, what are your thoughts on that? So, they're cracking down more on, they're going through more people's phones. They have upgraded technology to go through the phones and kind of compile a report on your activity and usage in like record timing. And they're giving people problems if, like, there's anti-Trump stuff, or I think one guy in France got turned back for a JD Vance meme. I mean, it's crazy how controversial memes have become in the last little while. But yeah, that's just wild. Like, I mean, isn't that like, no, it's not even freedom of speech. Isn't it just like freedom of thought and freedom to tell a joke and hear a joke and read a joke? And like, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
So again, like they're always trying to find a way around the constitutional principles, and um, the the in this case, so they can't just tell you what to say and think and do. They want to. They want to say there's bullying and blah blah blah. So they want to, but they can't. So what they did was they made everything that we do, including travel, not a right but a privilege. They did that by taking over. So they take over the airports. They pay for meaning us. Um, so they take all that stuff over. They pay for it. They don't make the airlines should pay you. There are plenty of private airports. There still are. The airlines can pay for those themselves and make their own rules. And if you don't like it because Delta frisks you, then don't go on Delta. But they make it a privilege, and then instead of saying we have restricted your rights of free speech, they say you just don't have access to this privilege because you're not, worthy of it. Yeah, so I think that it all starts with the initial violation of the Constitution, which is there is absolutely no place in the Constitution for airports. Why does do the feds take over all the airports?
Well, I mean, you can control a lot when you have your finger on the pulse of travel like that, right? All the main outlets of travel. So, I mean,
Yeah, and yeah, you can't travel, and then and they actually want. I think they've been trying to wind down traveling by plane anyway. So they've been like the whole Boeing thing. I think is false. I don't really think that Boeing is incompetent. All of a sudden, they had triple redundancies always. People who work there say like that. It's just not even believable. They have all these little accidents that I think are fishy. COVID absolutely shut down air travel. I think that they are moving into a new phase where previously they wanted us to super hyper mix. And now I think they've accomplished that. Like I went to London recently and there was hardly any white people there. And I mean, whether you like that or you don't like that, the fact is they really don't need to maximize air travel to make sure that all the populations of the world are mixed up. I think they've got that. So now, people talk to each other, they don't like that. So they would rather you not now maybe mix in person.
yeah,
Then they
yeah.
can't control what we say.
Interesting thought. Interesting. I mean, it's hilarious how Donald Trump can post a video of him flying a jet shitting on people. Did you see that? Yeah, and then
Yeah.
but then he gets hurt over a meme. I mean, this guy calls people dogs, and they're terrible and ugly and pathetic and a failure, and they're not hot anymore, and he says whatever the hell he wants, and like, but I mean, but then he gets so. Sometimes he seems he can get so butthurt over the littlest stuff.
Yeah, vengeful. It's really a terrible example to set for children and society to have this
Absolutely.
person that we admire, who the people teach their kids to admire to behave that way. Of course, I think all of that is part of the psyop and everything is designed to reduce us. I mean, there's just something really sinister going on at the top. Has no respect for the human being, that as an individual. There's no sense of equality whatsoever, and those people at the top are implementing the worst possible trends in society that gut us of our own humanity and then make us responsible. It's like they had segregation in the 60s, and Black people rightly felt that was unfair. But I had people, Atlanta was like 50% Black, and I used to have a radio show there. I had old guys call and say, at least back then, we had our own hamburger joints. Now is McDonald's. Like it was the original FUBU. It was the original for us, by us, to have it like that. And we're just not considered human beings anymore. And I feel like you know, like the overlords hate us.
Crazy. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I never really thought about that. Hmm. Um, you were going to, we were talking about Trump in Asia. He just had his Asian trip. You were going to talk about, I think you read a story about Trump on his Asian trip. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I was just reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, and like this article was so demonstrative of how Trump has gone. They like the first Trump term was meant to get people to think that things would be so different, whatever. And then I consider the Biden era just like a bridge. And then the next uh and now he's completely turned around. So it says the first, let me see if I have that. Yeah. Um It says after demolishing US-China relationship, Trump is rebuilding it his way. It says President Trump blew up America's decades-long engagement with China during his first term. Now he's poised to relaunch the kind of engagement with Beijing embraced by predecessors from Bill Clinton to Barack Obama. It says The deal, it appears to be a transactional truce, potentially involving China resuming purchases of U.S. soybeans and delaying new controls on rare earth minerals. The U.S. On the table for the U.S. is shelving new tariffs, rolling back the 20% levy on China over its role in the fentanyl crisis, and potentially refraining from taking new policy actions against China. And then it goes on to say that this is going to be the beginning of like a whole new relationship. So if he's going to bury all the hatchets like that and make a bunch of deals, the whole China thing was just bluster. And I don't even care. I don't even care because I am a free trader. But and I wondered about all this, all the big talk about China. On the one hand, you see that everybody from China to Russia was on board with COVID. Those guys could have blown the whistle on the COVID bullshit right away. Now, I think China's vaccine might be a traditional one with adjuvants rather than the mRNA one, which I would say then maybe they have the last laugh. Not sure about the Sputnik V. But then the other thing is, even if like all the warmongers who are preparing for war with China, even if that comes to fruition, I would say these guys like war just as much as we do. So just because we're going to war doesn't mean that we aren't colluding. So I feel like whatever it is, see, this is where it all went wrong. When Trump was running in 2015, some military guy was saying, we love him. Of course, they were all told, it was planted in their brains to love him. And I said, this guy never talks about the Bill of Rights. He never talks about the Bill of Rights. And he said to me, you can't have everything. And I'm like, that I don't want everything. That's all I want. That's the only thing I want. You know what I mean? And it's my right to have it. Like I just want what's mine. And once they gave up on really caring about the principles and gave themselves over to this cult of personality, and my mother used to say, I don't know. I just think he loves this country. And it's like, I don't think he loves this country. And B, I don't give a crap if he loves this country. He's not a king. So it doesn't matter.
It would be interesting to get in the mind of him for sure. Like Trump is such a character.
But do you think that his mind matters, or do you think he's playing a role? Like, is he a character or is he a character?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the deeper meaning of things, then yeah, I would say that he's probably an actor. I mean, it's just he does a really good job because he plays an actor that who sounds like he wouldn't be an actor. Like he wouldn't follow anyone's rules. He wouldn't follow anyone's script.
He's very well cast.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very well cast.
Exactly.
And he was trained, like The Apprentice. He was trained to be the boss and seem like the boss and act like an asshole. He could have been trained to be something else. The World Wrestling Federation thing. He was portrayed as a super rich guy. What super rich guy is doing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're really worth $1 billion, are you shaving McMahon's head? Like,
yeah.
What the hell? McMahon, it is his billions. That is his bread and butter. That is his job. But it was Trump's job too.
So, I mean,
he went bankrupt 4 times, and that's not something to brag about.
Absolutely.
I just like the system. And they're like, well, we need a businessman on top of it. We don't need a businessman who goes bankrupt 4 times. Like, you don't need the businessman who goes bankrupt. You need the businessman who prospers. But you don't need a businessman at all. What you need is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And here's the thing about the government shutdown, for example. What's the problem with the government shutdown? The federal government steals basically 50% of all of the income of all of the people, and then takes that and gives it back to the states. Why not? And then they have a complete dereliction of duty by not doing the things that almost everything is still happening. What they're doing is shutting down like national libraries. I mean, nothing. And they're paying those people for not working anyway, which is insane. Make them work and tell them that you'll give them some interest for the weeks that they didn't receive their paycheck, or give them a guarantee for their check so that they can go to their banks and get a loan that's guaranteed by the federal government. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's so easy. My guess is that the workers demand a shutdown because they're used to getting a month off every couple of years. So, but they're stealing the money and then giving it back. Just eliminate that whole thing and and that's another thing with like not letting state and local taxes be deductible from the feds. That basically doubles the cost to socialist countries like New York and California for their welfare programs. And they have the votes. They usually have the votes. So if they can't do it at home because they can't raise their own taxes because they're not tax deductible, they will bring that shit to the top. And that's the last thing we need. We want less at the top. Again, this is every single thing that I'm talking about is a violation of the Constitution. And that's all we need. And that's what we should talk about. And it's not, no kings is stupid because, you know, it's not about democracy. It is about the Constitution. And the Constitution isn't even perfect.
Yeah, that goes
I'm
back
ranting. I'm a little.
No, I love it. I love it.
The whole thing.
No, that goes back to our discussion earlier, right? It's not perfect. So, yeah, absolutely. We're also going to talk about Venezuela. Well, so, I mean, tell me what's going on with Trump and the states in Venezuela. Why is he bombing boats? You know, what's he got going on?
I think the bottom line there is, I mean, they are hell bent on regime change in Venezuela. They have wind under their sails because of Syria. It took them 14 years to bring Syria down. Russia could do nothing about it. They're sure as shit not doing anything about Venezuela. Syria was probably ultimately, somewhat about Israel, maybe a little bit about Turkey, gas pipelines. You know, energy did matter in Ukraine and Syria. That is what prompted both of those crises, in my opinion, both of those wars. And in Venezuela, I mean, it has more reserve. I think it has the most oil reserves of any country on earth right now. So that makes it a post-peak oil kind of, like the Middle East supposedly has passed its peak, Central China or Central Asia, whatever, the next one over, where they like with the Uyghurs and stuff. That's a place of like future oil. Venezuela has tons of reserves. And the bottom line is oil energy is still super, super important. If not because the powers that be want it, but they want to make sure that other people don't have it. So it would be powerful for the other side, if it's Russia or non-aligned nations or whatever, to have that. To have energy. So I think we control the energy more to keep it from them. But that's what I think Venezuela is about. Bombing those ships. I think they're, actually bombing. I don't know if that, if they're trying to provoke something or whatever, maybe trying to give an excuse for all the stuff we sent down there, the ships, aircraft carriers. I think there are 10,000 troops there. I think they're going to invade. And they use the drug thing as an excuse. I think part of what they're doing, I believe they are in total control of Ecuador. I believe the president of Ecuador right now was born in the U.S. The last guy was taken out, or maybe that was Bolivia. So they're like one after another. They're ticking off total control. I don't know if they're in control of the Colombian guy, but they're certainly opening lines of communication with him now, and to see which side he's on, because Colombia borders Venezuela. But I think, they tried to do a coup in Venezuela. It didn't work. I think they're going to have to invade. They want it. They're not going to give up. And bombing those ships is just murdering people so that they can foster this excuse or the narrative that they're working on. But they're murdering those people. And I don't even care if there are drugs on the boats. They're still murdering them.
Fair enough. I mean, it seems a little odd. Putting that much force into a drug boat. I don't know. So, but yeah, I guess we'll see what happens there. I mean, do you think that's, I would assume that the CIA that'd be something that the CIA would be behind, be pushing too. That seems like their MO, right? Regime change.
Yeah, they tried to do it that way, I think. They tried to do it that way, like they had an election and they said, "Oh yeah, Maduro didn't win, the other guy won." And the other guy was obviously like a US puppet. They put Elliot Abrams, boy, talk about deep state. He was the head of Venezuela, PSYOPs or whatever. Like he was the special envoy regarding Venezuela until recently. He's a real bad dude if you look up his thing. So obviously, Venezuela is definitely in the deep state crosshairs. But yeah, he just I think it's never been about anything else. And I think they probably gave Chavez, who was more competent than Maduro, more popular. I think they probably gave him that cancer that killed him.
Wow. Okay. Really?
Yeah, I think that's not I didn't make that up. Other people think that too.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, they've tried so many interesting things on Fidel Castro, right? So, and then there's so many interesting CIA stories about pills and shots and needles and different drugs or I guess you could call them chemical weapons that can make a heart attack or cause cancer, or you know what I mean. So yeah, it's totally possible. I'd say it's totally possible.
I'm not even 100% convinced that Castro was the guy. Like, I think he wrote a letter to FDR when he was 12 that said, "I will do anything you want. I love America." And,
really,
a lot can happen between when you're 12 and 32 or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It was in this book that I have handy by.
Let's see it. Let's see what you got. What you reading? What are you reading? I see you got the Bush family book there. That's a good one.
My husband sometimes takes work calls in here and he turns my books around so people can't see them. So they get confused and lost.
That's funny. That's funny.
Really funny. I don't blame them. I encourage it. I used to have a screen up here, which is helpful.
Oh, okay.
It's Servando Gonzalez, and he psychological operations and the New World Order, I think. Let me look at it. I was gonna read it like to my people, but it was a little too CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, heavy. Like it talks a lot about how the Council of Foreign Relations is the center of power. And that's a little out of style right now, right? So now it's all like the Jews are behind everything. It's all Israel. It's all this. It's all that. And it's kind of funny, like they shift. Then before that, it was before the CFR was the communists and whatever. And I'm not saying that all of those, elements are not part of the control structure, but it seems so dated, and also it's super thick. So I'm afraid I couldn't do it. But where is it?
Yeah, I'd like to note that. So let me know the title because I'd like to check that out one day.
Let me see. My notes. I'm an absolute mess right now. I just refuse to clean because there's always so much dust. This house is super old, so the windows are like casement windows, and dust just comes in. There's so much dust constantly. I just can't even bring myself.
Dust is the word.
Yeah. So here it is. Okay, it is called Psychological Warfare and the New World Order, The Secret War Against the American People by Servando Gonzalez. And I think, I wonder what year it was written. I can find that. It was really a good book, but it was just too long for me to just like read on the air. I was going to do it. But now I could. Well, the latest edition was 2022. That can't be right because I read it probably 10 years ago.
2010.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, it was quite good.
What do we got here? Actually, damn, here we go. For everyone listening, in the chat, I'm gonna put a link to the whole book.
Wow,
It
really?
yeah, I found it on our Internet Archive, which is a kick-ass website. I love that because sometimes it has. If I'm looking to watch a classic movie,
Yeah, of course.
have it.
Yeah.
So there you guys go. If you want to bookmark that, that's yeah. There you go. So cool. Well, before we start wrapping up, why don't we talk a little bit about? Are you up on what's going on with Israel Palestine? I see that we got hundreds killed, wounded in Gaza as Israel resumes attacks. Netanyahu orders powerful immediate attacks on Gaza. Israel says coffin from Hamas did not contain another hostage's body, accusing them of clear violation of the ceasefire. Yeah.
I mean, first of all, like the history of Hamas. I mean, I remember when they kind of transitioned from the Palestinian Liberation Organization with Yasser Arafat, which was a secular organization focused entirely on the right and wrong of the situation. It was in the interests of the, UK, US, Israel, triumvirate, whatever, to move the conversation to radical, violent Islamists, whatever. And there is evidence that they were behind the creation of Hamas, the movement over into that totally different way of dealing with it. So let's say that they're responsible for Hamas. Let's say they're not. Let's say October 7th.
Sorry, the Israelis?
Yeah, so I assume they are.
Because I hear that.
Yeah,
I hear that Netanyahu
created
funded them, or
I think in our world that's common knowledge. But let's say that's not even true. And let's say, and I look at October 7th, I'm like, there's absolutely no way. The best way to infiltrate an Iron Dome is hang gliders. Do not think that happened. So they moved that thing over. Yeah, the operation where they're allowed to kill their own people. I forget the name of it. Actually, an Iranian Jewish chick told me about that. Like, there's an operation where I forget what it was called. It's not Gladio or Gladiator. It's a Goliath, or I don't know what it is. But the IDF is allowed to kill their own people if it fosters the greater good. I'd have to look it up myself to remember it and know the details. But so they could do that. They supposedly moved this music show concert very close to the border. It's supposed to be the Israel's like Coachella. It's like 100th the size of Coachella. Why would you move it into the danger zone? All that stuff. So October 7th, that narrative I question. But let's say you didn't. You have 1,200 people killed or kidnapped or whatever. And you've killed in retaliation 65,000 people and destroyed absolutely everything. And if you look up the tenets of a just war, you are not allowed to do that. It has to be proportional. You have to be, it has to be effective, fair, just, all of those things. Like, it's not right. And looks to me like what they're doing is they just wanted that territory and they're taking it. And it's shocking to me. It's shocking. But I also look at Syria. I have an affinity for Syria. My grandmother is from Syria, from Damascus. And I look at, I think probably 10 times as many people were killed in Syria as Gaza, which I don't know what the proportion of just wholesale bombing murders in Syria, but hundreds of thousands of people have died in the quote civil war in Syria, which was definitely fomented from the outside. And there's just it's just murder. They're just murdering people to steal their land. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're in on it. Like, not we. I have to stop saying that. The empire. I do not consent to any of this. I'm never voting in a federal election again for as long as I live. I do not consent. The empire is acting in my name, against my wishes, with my money, without my permission. They are stealing it from me at the point of a gun. They're using it to kill people and steal their shit. And it's horrible. And they're in league with other countries. And that's the empire. And I hope that, I mean, I don't want to be Chinese or Russian. They don't want me. I would have no hope if they took over. They don't want anything. I'm not part of their culture. It's a shame that we've lost ours, but I wish they would stop some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be talk about losing culture shifts. Like, it'll be wild to see what happens if Modani takes over in New York. Um, I don't know if like city council is going to buy any of his policies, so I don't know where he's going to be at that point. But he's making some pretty wild promises, and there are some. I mean, a lot of it could be bullshit, but there's a lot of different accusations against him, what he believes, him eating with his hands, stuff like that.
Him, I mean, the stuff that I hear that comes across the super high level headlines is, he's saying he's going to tax the shit out of rich people and make everything free for poor people.
Everything free.
I will tell you that will not result in greater prosperity for the poor people. It's not going to work. But he's I'm sure a created person. Somebody in my Twitter feed DM'd me a little something funny about Mamdani. And so what I immediately did was I looked through the Twitter feed, like I searched for it, and I was surprised to say I could not find it. So maybe this isn't. Do you know what Mamdani fuzzy logic is? Have you heard of this?
No.
So I always think that these things are fake, created persons, whatever. Sometimes they have real names. Sometimes, their names just seem too ridiculous. Maybe it's what my friend William calls nominative determinism. And if this is your name, you're going to end up doing that. But Mamdani fuzzy logic is a type of fuzzy inference system that uses a set of linguistic rules to map inputs to outputs, making it suitable for applications like control systems. It was introduced by Ibrahim Mamdani in 1975 and is characterized by its use of fuzzy sets for both inputs and outputs, requiring a defuzzification step to convert fuzzy results into crisp values. And I could see the metaphorical meaning of that. In that, there's a lot of nebulous promises when it comes to communism, but if you're going to use it to bring everything together for a control system that is ultimately ironclad, I could see, an analogy to the kind of Soviet thing. And I don't think so. I mean, I think we're headed towards fascism. And I think communism and fascism are flip side of the same coin. But we're, look at our Obamacare thing. Like, that's what our Democrats decided to put in place, a mandate to buy a financial product. And you look at, it's like financial fascism. You look at what's tax deductible. Rent is not tax deductible. Interest on a loan, tax deductible. Your insurance, health, medical expenses are not tax deductible. Your insurance premiums, which are a financial item, tax deductible. When things are tax deductible, they're being subsidized. That's a subsidy. It's a discount that you would otherwise pay. So from what you would otherwise pay, and it favors you buying insurance or getting a mortgage over paying rent or paying for your bills directly. So, and when you look at what Trump is doing, telling CEOs what to do, telling countries, and making this AI executive order that talks about how to spend money, sovereign wealth fund for a country with a projected $50 trillion worth of debt is insane. It's just these are all just financial fascism, in my opinion, and I don't think communism is even a possibility. They'd much rather have our way of doing it, which is, the way it's being done now, which is this extremely high progressive taxation, get everyone to give. So the communist theory is from everyone, from them to their abilities, to them according to their needs, from them according to their abilities. How do you get that? But really striking the balance of progressive taxation, where you can get people to work as much as they are willing to work, giving them the little bits of creature comforts that motivate them. You can get all you can out of them. And then on the other side, just give them the bare necessities, actually give them things like public transportation and and healthcare so that they can go to their corporate jobs for wages that are below subsistence levels. So, it's very fascist to me. And even the way the money's going to go, it's it's not going to have any soundness in it. And I remember reading that Hitler, one of the last things he did before the West really got pissed, was introduce like a Reichsmark, which was an hour of labor was equal to 1 coin, basically, no matter what you did. So, who knows if the financial system is going to pivot to fascism, even in how they change, they're obviously going to change the currency, how they're going to do it.
Right. Yeah. Oof. Well, cryptocurrencies could be a method, right?
Yeah, I see it. There's a comment about free buses in New York City, speedier transit, much less congestion, typical big city problems worldwide. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are ways to do it. We certainly have technology that you could have ingress and egress into these modes of transportation without slowing down. I got into the country without even showing my passport recently because, against my permission, they used the facial recognition stuff and they just waved me, and I did not even slow down entering this country, So I could probably get on a city bus without much fuss. I worry free stuff like that. You end up with a lot of bums on there. All you'd have to do to be homeless, you could just fill the buses up with homeless people, just
Right?
on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Like, and it could just be a place for people to hang out and
do drugs.
do drugs,
Yeah.
do crime.
Tiny houses here immediately got super disgusting. Like, they got all the homeless people in these tiny houses, and then all the liberals who were clamoring for like a solution to the homeless problem, are very not in my backyard, which is totally fine. Not in my backyard either, but I'm not telling it to be in your backyard. Like, not in my backyard is fine because I'm not for the policy. Screw that.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Two things before we go. I'd like to cover if you have any thoughts on Russia, Ukraine. That's another big one going on. It seems like both sides are unwilling to compromise. It seems like it's one step forward, 3 steps back. Do you think? What are your thoughts on the outcome? And on the outcome, when it might happen?
I guess I thought the outcome from the beginning would be just that Russia would get the 2 oblasts that it wanted. And
right. Yeah,
I don't follow it that much, but I've never been moved from that position. I think we are bombarding Russia constantly to keep them. It's like machine gun suppression fire. Like, you're there bombarding them so they can't go to Syria, they can't go to Venezuela. This is a great way to destroy Ukraine and build it back better with, whatever kind of all digital society you want. Ukraine's might not be a bad place to do that, just as far as location and history and everything, I think. But I think the powers that be are satisfied with what's happening. I mean, what's going to happen? Yeah, I would think those 2 oblasts, but I think they're satisfied with what's happening. And I think the next place to keep an eye on would be Georgia, the country of Georgia. It was one of the places that was mentioned so the thing that I remember thinking precipitated finally the Russians. So in 2013, 2014, the US implemented a coup in Ukraine. I'm not sure if you're fully aware. I was following it at the time. They had a democratically elected president, Yanukovych, Victoria Nuland, Vicky the Noodle, and Jeffrey Pyatt, who was the ambassador to Ukraine. Talk about treachery. They instituted this coup, and Yanukovych was falsely accused of murder, whatever, had to go to Russia. That was a long time ago, and they thought Russia might react, but Russia held its, it would give supplies to the oblasts, Donetsk and Luhansk, who were upon that coup totally disenfranchised because they banned Russian as a language, and that's what their schools and their voting and everything was in. So those people were completely disenfranchised overnight. Crimea too, and Russia, Pyatt and the Noodle were afraid that Russia would react, but they didn't. What made Russia react finally was, I think it was some kind of UN thing. I forget what the forum was, but it was a big international forum where they said, we're going to put, I was probably NATO. We want Georgia and Ukraine in NATO. The second Ukraine gets into NATO, with Russia having taken back Crimea, completely justly, by the way, the world, Ukraine and the US say that Crimea is a part of Ukraine. So when Ukraine becomes NATO, Russia has invaded a NATO country in that minute, and that's World War III right there. So Russia can't have Ukraine in NATO. The other country they said was Georgia. They wanted Georgia in NATO too, and that's got a lot of history with Russia, and it doesn't need this kind of crap, but I think it's going to get it. I think that they're probably next. This is probably happening just in the same way that it happened there, and probably in Nepal. Probably same thing that happened in Nepal. Just go in there and start pounding away at what they call civil society, using social media, corrupting elements of the government, establishing institutions, brainwashing kids into thinking democracy is the answer instead of fundamental rights and liberty, which are the answer. So I think Ukraine might keep going, but they love to blow up bombs and stuff. They love to, use their material and get other people to buy more. Think of all the things they did. The European, all of a sudden, everybody, Japan and Germany were basically not allowed to remilitarize, are remilitarizing. I mean, that's all Ukraine.
Wow. Interesting. Lots of different ties. Finally, talking about like players and characters and actors and all that. What's your thought on Andrew Tate?
He's the British one.
The American British one who talks like he's got
the guy who's fomenting like revolution in UK, saying like all the immigrants we have to fight, like Elon. Was that him with Elon Musk?
No, that was no, that was a different. I forget his name, Michael. I forget his name. No, Andrew Tate's the ex-fighter who made money. And he's some of his cases are getting dropped, but he's got a big case in Romania. And
no, I don't follow that one. I can see. I mean, it sounds familiar now. Yeah, he's histrionic, but I don't follow. That's a little too pop culture-y for me.
Yeah, I was just curious. I don't follow him either, but he pops up around. He pops up.
Yeah,
so I'm just curious because.
What do you think of him?
I mean, I think he's a piece of shit, playing a piece of shit, and I don't know. I think some of his ideologies are kind of dangerous and disrespectful, and I don't know. I can't. I'm not a. I really don't follow him that much, so I'm not 100% sure about everything he's about. But he sounds like a piece of garbage.
The headline from the BBC is, "Who is Andrew Tate, the self-proclaimed misogynist influencer?" And his father was a chess champ.
Yeah.
And those people can be highly influential and also smart. So who knows?
And like, if you listen to him talk, he sounds like I don't know. He sounds like he's got a mouthful of saliva, and he's like, I don't know. Like he talks like I don't know. He talks like a fucking idiot. But anyways, hopefully we don't have too many followers.
Oh, the brothers, yeah.
Tate brothers, yeah. So
funny. I don't know. I would probably have an opinion on it if I knew more about it.
Yeah. No, all good. I was just curious from a woman's point of view, but no, all good.
I'm against rape. As a woman, I'm against rape, but I have a solution to it. I will compromise with people who want gun control, which I don't. But my compromise will be half the people get guns and half the people don't, and half the people who get guns are women. So if all women had guns and no women, including cops and shit, had guns, I think we'd be fine. The rape problem would be finished.
Interesting. Social experiments with
A
Monica.
little, yeah, I'm a little tongue in cheek, but I mean, I think it would be. I'm pretty sure it would end rape.
I love it.
Probably end murder also, actually, and develop, domestic abuse.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that. Jesus Christ, especially. Well, I mean, we're talking about the States, but yeah, around the world, there's a lot of that.
Places with the highest rape incidents are places with total gun bans. Like what they talk about India and Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah, they have total gun bans and they have horrible rape problems. Petty crime, knife crime, stuff like that always flourishes in the no gun culture. But it's like everything, you need to have some wisdom when it comes to it. You need to have wisdom about pot. You need to have wisdom about guns. You need to have wisdom about making sauerkraut. Like there's just stuff that we grew up with and it's been eradicated. So just radically re-embracing it all, we've lost so much.
Yeah.
But not everything.
Yeah. No, fair enough. There's always another day and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we just got to make the right choices, right?
Yeah.
Well, Monica, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to meet you again.
Thank you for your patience. I cannot believe what a disaster. I'm glad that you had a minute for me to pivot around and finally figure this out.
All good. I hope you'll come back.
I'm happy to. I certainly owe you one, as a matter of fact.
Well, good. I'll keep that in my pocket.
Dog is insane. He was on death row because of that barking. And I thought it would be no big deal because we lived in this totally quiet place with a huge high fence. And within a month, it burned to the ground. Our fence, our backyard, everything just burned to the ground. And it's nothing but trucks and people in my house around. I think it's taking years off of my life. But anyway, my most sincere apologies to your listeners.
It's okay. The important thing is that you're okay and the house
I know. Okay. At first, I was like, I don't even care about the house. I'm so happy that we're all safe and whatever. Yeah. And then over time, you're like, okay, the barking has to stop. So anyway, we should be in the home stretch here. But I absolutely owe you one. Thank you for your patience and for your listeners, too. I really appreciate it.
Well, let everyone know where they can find you and anything you want to promote or push that you're working on right now. I know you do have the Monica Perez show, but yeah, let us know what.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so the Monica Perez show is where everything is on your favorite podcasting platform. I have Substack as well under that name, monicaperezshow.com. I probably have 1,000 shows in the archive. And the one I do, which I think is valuable right now because my news show is on hold, is Cognitive Dissidence, which I do with Hervoy Morich of Geopolitics and Empire and Parallel Mike of the Parallel Systems broadcast. And we do once a month get together and hit the news from 3 different places in the world, Mexico, an undisclosed location for Mike and me in LA. So that's super fun. One of those just came out yesterday. So if you want to go to you can listen to that. It's as up to the minute as you can get.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, everyone check that out. Make sure to please subscribe to the Divulgence podcast on YouTube. You can check it out wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find me on X. So yeah, thanks again for your time, everyone. Be safe, take care, and yeah.